So this is how it begins. Not with an announcement, not with a press release, but with silence. Deafening, deliberate silence. Caitlyn Clark, the brightest star to grace the WNBA in decades, didn't need to issue a statement. She didn't hold a press conference. Instead, she let her actions speak louder than any microphone ever could. She walked away from the Indiana Fever's medical staff, cutting the cord, severing the trust, and rewriting the power dynamic between player and franchise. When your franchise player refuses to let your trainers touch her, you don't have an injury problem. You have a rebellion. The message was unmistakable. Clark, the face of a revolution, had seen enough. From groin injuries to media whispers, she made it clear she no longer trusts the people paid to keep her healthy. This wasn't a case of precaution. It was protest. Behind closed doors, sources revealed that Clark didn't just seek a second opinion. She deliberately avoided giving any updates to the team doctors. The silence became the loudest siren in Indiana Fever history. For a league desperate to keep her on the court, this was a PR earthquake. What made this even more damning was how calculated it all felt. Clark's refusal wasn't emotional. It was strategic. Like a queen in chess, she moved without explanation, forcing the entire board to react. And suddenly, the Fever found themselves scrambling. Coach Stephanie White admitted she hadn't even spoken to her own trainers about Clark's outside consultations. That's not miscommunication. That's a breakdown in leadership. And the scariest part? This might only be the beginning. For fans who watched Clark transform arenas into sellout temples, this move was unthinkable. She wasn't just Indiana's best player. She was Indiana basketball. But stars only shine when they're fueled by belief in themselves, in their team, and in their care. Clark's decision to pull the plug on the team's medical oversight is a warning shot to the entire WNBA. If the biggest name in women's sports no longer trusts her franchise, what happens next? The answer, unfortunately, might already be unfolding behind the scenes. And it's not pretty. Because when you peel back the curtain, what you see isn't just a player walking away from her trainers. It's a system, fractured, outdated, and dangerously ill-equipped to support greatness. Clark didn't just walk away from treatment. She walked away from philosophy, a philosophy that let her down again and again until she had no choice but to protect herself. The scars tell the story. Caitlyn Clark has now suffered 4 muscle-related injuries in just her rookie season. That's not bad luck. That's medical negligence wrapped in corporate gloss. A groin strain, a quad issue, another groin strain. For a player who never missed a single college game, this is a horror story in slow motion. And the most chilling part? Each injury came closer than the last, like a countdown to collapse. The body doesn't lie. And Caitlyn Clark's body is screaming for help. But help didn't come from Indiana's bench. It came from outside consultations, from specialists in New York, from the whispers of elite doctors who saw what the Fever refused to acknowledge. Clark's injuries weren't just recurring. They were avoidable. The timeline reveals a cycle of rushing, re-aggravating, and repeating. May 3rd, May 26th, June, July 15th. Again and again, the Indiana Fever sent her back onto court, unready, unhealed, and unprotected. The evidence was damning. Fans pointed to broadcast commentary that Clark had returned from her quad injury with no full-speed practices. Let that sink in. The league's most valuable player was shoved back into the spotlight after just one full-speed drill. Why? Ratings? Ticket sales? Pressure? Whatever the excuse, the result was disaster. She re-injured herself almost immediately, and that's when Clark drew the line. That's when she decided, enough is enough. What's emerging isn't just a pattern of soft tissue injuries. It's a roadmap of institutional failure. Every injury tells the same story. Rush recovery, incomplete rehab, and a medical team more concerned with optics than outcomes. For Caitlyn Clark, who entered the league as a generational icon, this betrayal isn't just physical, it's personal. She trusted Indiana to care for her. Instead, they treated her like a tool to be wielded, not a legacy to be protected. And when the trust breaks, there's no going back. That's why this isn't just about rehab anymore. It's about respect. Clark's refusal to cooperate with the Fever's trainers is a mutiny, a public declaration that she will no longer sacrifice her health for a system that doesn't value her longevity. And in that decision, she's not just saving herself. She's rewriting the rules for every future WNBA superstar who watches this drama unfold. But the biggest shock came not from the locker room, but from the tunnels of the Barclays Center. On July 22nd, after a devastating loss to the New York Liberty, Clark was spotted in what appeared to be a business meeting, not a casual chat. Alongside her agent, she engaged in a serious, deliberate conversation with Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello and franchise stars Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. The photos leaked. The internet erupted. This wasn't a rumor. This was a warning. What were they discussing? We may never know the exact words, but the presence of her agent said enough. This wasn't a post-game hug. This was strategic positioning. The optics were crystal clear. The Liberty are ready to rescue, ready to rebuild, ready to treat Caitlyn Clark like the royalty she is. And while Indiana spirals in chaos, other franchises are already preparing their pitches. Because make no mistake, when a superstar like Clark starts looking elsewhere, it's only a matter of time. And Indiana knows it. That's why the silence from Fever leadership has become deafening. No denial, no clarification, just vague medical updates and defensive coach interviews. Stephanie White says she hasn't spoken to trainers. The team says there's no timetable. What they don't say is the one thing that matters. We're doing everything to fix this. Because they're not. They're watching it crumble in real time. Meanwhile, Clark is building her fortress, visiting New York physicians, coordinating her own recovery plans. She's created a team outside the team, a network of professionals who don't answer to the Fever, but to her. And in doing so, she's flipped the WNBA power structure on its head. She's no longer the player taking orders. She's a boss writing her own comeback arc. And that's why this feels so much bigger than basketball. What makes this story so heartbreaking is that it didn't have to be this way. The Fever had a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Clark gave them everything. Sold-out games, national headlines, a playoff berth, and millions in new revenue. All she asked for in return was trust, safety, a system that let her thrive. And instead, they gave her a coaching overhaul, a medical disaster, and a game plan that tried to shrink her into a role player. That's not just failure. That's betrayal. Remember Christy Sides? She may not have been perfect, but she understood one sacred truth. You don't bench brilliance. Sides gave Clark the ball, let her run the show, and Clark rewarded her with historic rookie stats and a winning season. Stephanie White, on the other hand, wants her to play off-ball, wants to diminish the very skill set that made her legendary. That's not coaching. That's sabotage. You don't draft Magic Johnson and then hand the ball to a role player. You don't ask Steph Curry to stand in the corner. And you don't take Caitlyn Clark, the most gifted passer and shot creator in women's basketball, and tell her to wait her turn. The offense is her. The system should orbit around her. And when it doesn't, the results are exactly what we're seeing. Chaos, confusion, and collapse. And let's talk about the scoreboard. Without Clark, the Fever are 4-6. Yes, they've had flashes of competence, but flashes don't win championships. What wins is vision, leadership, and a system built around its star. Clark isn't just a good player. She's the difference between a title contender and a team that barely scrapes into the playoffs. And yet, Indiana keeps trying to prove it can win without her. That arrogance will be their downfall. Because the truth is, Clark doesn't owe them anything. She's already given more than they deserved. And now, she's reclaiming control. When fans ask why she's hurt, why she's distant, why she's choosing her own doctors, it's not because she's dramatic. It's because she's done. Done with empty promises. Done with being a pawn. Done with sacrificing her body for a franchise that never protected it in the first place. And now, the consequences are beginning to unfold in broad daylight. With each passing day, the Indiana Fever are not just losing games, they're losing the trust of their cornerstone. Clark has transformed from rookie sensation to WNBA icon in under a year, and yet she's being treated like a disposable asset, a pawn to be moved at convenience. And that's the part the Fever never understood. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the Indiana Fever. The Indiana Fever desperately need her. And that desperation is beginning to show in every awkward interview, every vague press release, and every fan who can't help but notice the joy has disappeared from her game. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about injuries. This is about betrayal. You can hear it in Clark's recent interviews, where the words are polished, but the eyes say everything. The same player who once energized the court with unshakable confidence now walks with the weariness of someone forced to carry more than a basketball. She's carrying a broken system, a crumbling franchise, and the impossible expectation that she must fix it all while playing injured. And somewhere along the way, she realized that's not her responsibility. What happens when the league's brightest light begins to flicker? Not because of ability, but because of exhaustion, physical, emotional, institutional. Caitlyn Clark is 23 years old and already talking like a veteran nearing burnout. This is the first time I haven't felt like a young body, she confessed during All-Star Weekend. That wasn't a soundbite. It was a cry for help. A declaration that the system built to support her has instead started to hollow her out from inside. And if Indiana doesn't act fast, it won't just be her body that leaves. It'll be her legacy. And still, the Fever seem to believe they can outwait the storm. That if they just keep quiet long enough, Clark will come back, healed, ready, willing to fall in line. But that's not how revolutions work. Revolutions don't rewind. They erupt. Clark isn't looking for reconciliation. She's looking for freedom. Freedom from medical manipulation. Freedom from coaching philosophies that dim her brilliance. Freedom from a franchise that treats generational talent like a replaceable part in a malfunctioning machine. Other teams are already circling. The Liberty, the Aces, franchises with the infrastructure, the leadership, and most importantly, the respect to give Clark the career she deserves. And Indiana? They're still clinging to a past that no longer exists. A past where Caitlyn Clark needed them. That illusion is dead because now the power has shifted. Clark has the platform, the brand, the leverage, and if the Fever don't give her a reason to stay, soon they'll be remembered not as a team that drafted Caitlyn Clark, but as the team that lost her. And that day is coming fast. You can feel it. In every empty word from the front office, in every photo of Clark watching from the bench, expression unreadable, in every fan tweet that says, "I wouldn't blame her if she left." The conversation has changed. It's no longer about whether Clark is injured. It's about whether Indiana can be trusted to protect her, to build around her, to deserve her. And as of right now, the answer is dangerously unclear. This is no longer just a sports story. It's a cautionary tale. One that echoes across every professional league, every locker room, every front office. When you fail to care for your stars, when you treat icons like liabilities, don't be surprised when they walk away. And when they do, don't ask why. The signs were always there, written in groin strains and trainer silence, in emotional sideline stares and whispered meetings with rival coaches. This isn't sudden, it's surgical, deliberate, calculated. Clark isn't throwing a tantrum. She's making a statement. She's done playing hurt for people who won't protect her, done being the marketing machine, while her body is breaking down. Done sacrificing her future for an organization that refuses to see her as more than a headline. She's walking away, not because she's weak, but because she's wise, because she knows her worth. And the rest of the league knows it too. The next chapter is unwritten, but the pen is in Caitlyn Clark's hands. The Fever can either rip up the script and start fresh, rebuild their medical philosophy, recenter their coaching vision, and put their faith fully in the star who saved them, or they can watch her walk into another city, another uniform, another dynasty. Because the truth is, Clark's legacy will rise no matter what. The only question left is, will Indiana rise with her, or be left in the ruins of what could have been? Because this is how it ends, not with a celebration, not with a banner, but with silence. Deafening, deliberate silence. The kind that follows after greatness has left the building. And if the Fever don't change course immediately, that silence might echo through their franchise for years to come. In a recent All-Star Weekend interview, Clark revealed something chilling. "This is the first time I haven't felt like a young body that can run around and sprint every day." That's not a quote. That's a confession. A 23-year-old in her athletic prime, already feeling the weight of being misused. Her tone was reflective. Her words, haunting. This wasn't about one injury. It was about the system that's been breaking her piece by piece. And the visuals told the rest. The towel over the head, the distant look on the bench, the guarded body language. These aren't just signs of physical pain. They're signs of psychological fracture. And when a player like Clark, confident, composed, commanding, starts to look uncertain, it should terrify everyone in that front office. because stars like her don't stay uncertain for long. They make decisions, and those decisions change everything. Right now, the Indiana Fever are playing with borrowed time. Each game Clark sits out is another chapter written in a story that could end with her departure, and teams like the Liberty are watching, waiting, building, because when Clark becomes available, it won't just be a free agency battle. It'll be a league-altering war, one that the Fever are already losing without even knowing it. So here's the final truth, the one no one in Indiana wants to hear. You either build around Caitlyn Clark the right way, or you lose her forever. And from the looks of it, they've already chosen. They've chosen mediocrity. They've chosen ego. They've chosen a path that ends with the greatest player of a generation walking away. Not because she wanted to, but because they gave her no choice. The clock is ticking, and Caitlyn Clark's patience has officially run out.